There's a new level of media alert in Iraq. 7 journalists have been abducted over the past several weeks, and that's got other media wondering how they can do their jobs. Tonight, we're reporting from Iraq, where the dangers have vastly increased. I'm Susan Ormiston, and this is Inside Media. Reporting on a war is always risky business, but for journalists working now in Iraq, conditions have gotten much worse. Many on the ground say the current situation is more tense and dangerous than ever. Clashes between coalition forces and Iraqi insurgents are more intense and more deadly, and a new target has emerged. Foreign nationals, among them journalists, seen as potential hostages. That increased security threat means journalists are having to change the way they do business. Now, rather than roaming the streets or the country to get at the story, more and more reporters and photographers are confined to hotel rooms, working from wire copy. The risks, sometimes too great to leave home base. So what's changed, and how does that affect the coverage? Well, we'll ask 2 journalists in Iraq whose stories you've seen or heard lately in Canada. Orly Halpern and Patrick Graham have their own harrowing accounts of reporting from Iraq. They join us from Baghdad. Orly, how has the lawlessness and the threat of being kidnapped affected how you work?
Well, first of all, it's affected how I dress. I no longer wear just pants and long-sleeve shirts. I now wear long tunics, and I wear over that a black, long Islamic cloak. I cover my hair completely. The only thing you see are my hands, my feet, my face. A lot of journalists also hide their identity, saying that they're Serbian Muslims or Turkish Muslims or something of that effect, or just French.
Patrick, how about you? You've had to move around a bit to stay ahead of the security threat. Tell me about that.
Well, when it first started happening, I guess it really fell apart about 10 days ago, maybe 12 days ago. You were still able to move around. They hadn't started kidnapping people. I decided to dye my hair. I didn't shave for a while. I didn't look terribly Iraqi, but at least from a distance I didn't look too foreign. But as soon as they started kidnapping people, we've pretty much stayed around hotels. I mean, this is right now very much an Arabic or Iraqi journalist story. Foreign journalists right now don't cover anything at all.
It's dangerous then to be identified as a Westerner. But Patrick, you went into Fallujah some time ago. How did you get in there?
I went with an Iraqi friend, and we drove into the city. The first time I tried to go, the Marines stopped me, and they wouldn't allow me in. They knew I was a journalist. The second time I went in as an Iraqi, and after a while it was clear that it was just too dangerous to stay, and the people we were with said there were a lot of hostages in the city, a lot of foreign hostages. So we left. I mean, there was virtually no reporting that you could do. We had lunch with a family. But you were caught between the resistance, who were everywhere. I mean, hundreds and hundreds of them all over the streets, and the Americans who were firing. I mean, snipers, tank fire. There was a family killed in a car ahead of us when we were trying to get out. Really, it was not a very effective journalistic experience. I mean, you just realize at that point that we're just caught on between both sides, and just went home.
Now, Orly, on the road to Fallujah some time ago, you, in fact, were abducted. What happened?
I was driving from Amman to Baghdad, and the Marines had just started their operation. So close to Fallujah, we were detoured and had to take a side road. Within 5 minutes down that side road in a village area, we just had bullets flying at our car, hitting them. Luckily, it was an armored car. I was traveling with a colleague. And then suddenly we were passed by 2 cars, trucks, filled with insurgents carrying RPG launchers, Kalashnikovs of all sorts, and shooting at us. We made a U-turn, but they shot a tire out, and we were stopped and taken hostage. The first group that took us, they were probably more criminal than they were political. They were very violent. They threw us into a taxi, yelling that they were going to take us to some house, and they were going to kill my colleague, who's a male, but because I'm female, I wouldn't be killed because they're Muslim. It was very scary. We drove through rural areas where streets were just filled with people with guns. No sight of any Marines or coalition troops or Iraqi police. And when we arrived at the house, we got out, well, we were thrown out, and we, as we had been the whole time, we were telling them we're journalists in Arabic, we're journalists, we're journalists. Suddenly, for our luck, another car screeched to a halt. People jumped out, and one man, young man who was carrying a walkie-talkie, yelled at the other guys that were with us, who were basically all young guys, really ragtag group, but very well armed. And he yelled at them and said, "You can't do this, these are journalists." And even though he only had two other guys with them, one of them masked, he had the authority, and he took us from them, put us in his car. He told us in the car not to be scared, and he took us to the village leader. At the village leader's house, they had to ascertain that we were not spies, that we were in fact journalists, which it took some time to prove to them, but they were more or less convinced in the end. And we had a wonderful lunch with them, and they eventually released us after we got all our stuff back. Well, almost all our stuff.
So after that horrifying experience, how did you change the way you were reporting?
I will not go now to the provinces unless I'm pretty sure that I can be pretty safe. Even in Baghdad, I'm limited, as Patrick pointed out. But to go out to the provinces is really, really risking your life because there are roadblocks set up. So we're basically not, we're very limited in the coverage we have outside of Baghdad and in Baghdad.
Patrick, what's your assessment of the story so far from Iraq? And now, when it's very difficult to get out and make sense of the chaos out there, what are we getting for a story back here in Canada?
Well, Iraq has always been very difficult to cover for a whole bunch of different reasons. I mean, before the war, people wouldn't talk to you. After the war, there was a brief sense of liberation. People talked, but probably one of the profoundest legacies of Saddam is a real paranoia of outsiders, and that has always been under the surface. And now it's come out very strongly, but it's more of the same. It's always been very difficult to figure out anything. I mean, people will tell you things that they think you want to hear because they want you to like them. They will tell you things that they think you should think about Iraq even though they know it's not true. So there's always been a huge amount of almost natural misinformation that's made this place very, very difficult to cover. And on the top of that, they watch a lot of Western media that's translated into Arabic. And a lot of the Western media has been very simplistic about Iraq. For instance, the areas of Fallujah are always called Saddam loyalists, and bastions of Baathists and things like that. In fact, when you go out there and you spend a lot of time there, there's a great deal more ambiguity to the situation. And there's a huge amount of resentment against Western journalists. When I was in Fallujah the other day, a man said to us, you know, the Americans have the atomic bomb and they have this big army, but the thing they have most, the strongest weapon they have is the power of the media, and the media are completely on their side. So right now, in terms of getting a story, Iraqis are quite paranoid about what they see as Western prejudice, and you have to cut through that. So right now, the only thing you can do is rely on Iraqi friends who you trust to tell you what's going on. But Iraqis themselves don't know what's going on. I mean, the last few weeks have been so volatile. It surprised everybody. The resistance was calming down, particularly in Fallujah.
Very briefly,
and then the Marines went in, and it just revived everything and turned what...
Very briefly, are you worried? Are you scared? I am.
I can say certainly I am. But I try not to let it prevent me from doing my job completely. I do go out, less so than before, and I try to stay off the street as much as possible, go inside of buildings. But it is worrying because you don't know, even if you do go into someone's shop and you start interviewing them, if somebody else saw you walk in and they don't like foreigners, then they might come and show up with some guns and kidnap you or kill you. And there's always, every time I go out, I think about the fact that I might be shot in the back of the head.
Yes. It's very scary right now, there's no question. I mean, on both sides. If you're driving behind an American convoy and an IED goes off or there's an attack, the Americans use suppressive fire, they shoot everything, it's dangerous from that side. And now there's huge numbers of unarmed groups that don't seem to have any central control, both in the Shia and the Sunni areas. So it's a real crapshoot. If you go out there, you just don't know what's going to happen. I don't know anybody who's traveling right now, any foreigners. It's just too dangerous. It doesn't really make any sense to even take the risk.
Pretty tough working conditions. Patrick Graham and Orly Halpern, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
When we come back, how to stay safe in a conflict zone. As we've just heard, that is an increasingly hard thing to do. As many journalists have died in Iraq in the past 4 months as during the entire last year there. According to the Committee to Protect Journalists, 13 journalists were killed in Iraq last year. So far this year, another 13 have been killed. Of the 26 dead in Iraq since the war began, 10 have been killed by coalition forces.
The struggle for freedom, the power of song. To mark 10 years of democracy in South Africa, CBC Newsworld presents 3 nights of documentaries examining the role of music in the fight against apartheid. This stirring 3-part series begins with A Mandolin, a revolution in 4-part harmony. Audience Choice winner at the Sundance Film Festival. On The Passionate Eye, tonight at 10 Eastern and Pacific on CBC Newsworld.
Through years of research, our engineers have designed a nearly perfect machine, the Dave Lennox Signature Collection, the most quiet and efficient central air conditioner you can buy. For a limited time, get up to a $1,000 rebate or 10-year extended warranty on a Dave Lennox Signature Collection system.
Breathe easy. Introducing Neat by Safety First, the first easy-to-use, truly odor-free diaper disposal system. Raise the handle, insert the diaper, lower the handle. No twisting, no turning, no problem. Neat by Safety First uses half the amount of bag for the same amount of dirty diapers. Neat is the only odor-free diaper disposal system because of its patented 7-layer barrier film.
Neat by Safety First. Available everywhere baby products are sold.
Through years of research, our engineers have designed a nearly perfect machine, the Dave Lennox Signature Collection, the most quiet and efficient central air conditioner you can buy. For a limited time, get up to a $1,000 rebate or 10-year extended warranty on a Dave Lennox Signature Collection system.
Coming up on Inside Media, you don't plan to fail, you fail to plan. Journalists take a lot of precautions when reporting from a conflict zone. We're going to London to get a security briefing in 2 minutes.
New Year's Eve, 1993.
I'm starting to get a little verklempt.
Don't you get verklempt on me.
The opening night of Barbra Streisand's legendary return to the concert stage. Now, for the first time ever, on DVD, Barbra Streisand, The Concert, live at the MGM Grand. Only on DVD in digital 5.1 surround sound. In stores now.
You've been waiting to do this for years. Don't let arthritis pain keep you from not starting a little something, not making your move, not getting physical, not putting it together, not spicing things up, not loving the moment, not going for it all the way. Grab some Tylenol arthritis pain with 1 layer for fast relief and a 2nd layer that delivers relief for up to 8 hours. It's the Tylenol for arthritis pain.
Introducing the Litter Locker, a soiled litter disposal system. Truly odor-free. Scoop the soiled litter with the Litter Locker scoop. Drop the soiled litter into the Litter Locker. Turn the handle, and there you have it. It's quick, clean, easy, and odorless. The Litter Locker can store your cat's soiled litter for up to 2 weeks. Finally, a soiled litter disposal system which locks odors away, thanks to its patented 7-layer barrier film. Odor-free, guaranteed. Available at large retail stores and specialty boutiques.
The 2004 Toyota 4Runner. Where will it take you?
We just heard from 2 journalists about the very real dangers of reporting from Iraq. At the root of their concerns, getting caught in a shooting spree or the more recent risk of being kidnapped. It is Tom O'Neill's job to minimize the risk of that happening. He is a security risk specialist with the AKE Group. That's a company that provides training and security to non-military personnel in conflict zones, including many large broadcasters. He is in London. Tom, your job is to assess risk. How risky is it these days in Iraq?
Very risky. And the risk is getting evaluated every day. With regards to the current situation, it's a big problem.
What makes it more risky now than before?
Well, I think the insurgents have realised in a lot of cases just how easy it is, certainly, to kidnap people. Because they've got the time on their side, they've got the knowledge. So what you've got to do is you've got to be aware of the situation all the time, on a day-to-day basis and actually on an hourly basis as well.
What are some of the precautions that you tell media groups in particular to take now?
Well, you've got to look at the task in hand, whatever task is going on at that present time. A lot of media groups and journalists hit the ground running, so they've got to be aware of what the situation is all the time in that particular area. Not only that particular area, but the area you might be going to. You might be looking at contingency plans as well that you might have to put in place just in case you can't carry out that task yourself.
Specifically, what types of things do you tell them? Do you actually say you cannot go to a certain area and be safe? Do you tell them they must ride in armored cars, they must have escorts with them? What types of things?
Well, it's easy to say that because obviously some people do not have access to armoured cars. Some people don't have access to security personnel. So again, you've got to advise them on the risk that is there at the current time. Again, you're looking at the mission, what your task is. You're looking at the aim and the appreciation. That is the whole part of what is going on. To that end, you're going to advise them on the movement. You're going to look at the personnel. Are you going to downscale in a lot of cases? Because you might have too many people to do that particular task.
When you go to Iraq, you sometimes join media teams. What's your role there?
We're security risk advisors to the media teams. Again, we're an advisory team. We advise them of the risks. Because the media is really 100% focused on getting the story, we've got to raise their awareness of the situations around them so they can work effectively.
So do you blend in with the team as a member of the team, for example?
Yes, we certainly do. We certainly try to blend in as much as possible.
And obviously your role is to stay out of trouble, and if you're in trouble, get them out of trouble. But what if you get caught in the middle of crossfire or in some situation like that? What can you do to protect a team there?
Certainly what we do is we're normally proactive. In fact, we are proactive. We look at the situation before we actually get into that situation. So we hopefully are not in a situation where we can't get out of. The problems in the past with media groups is that the group tends to be split. That is the biggest problem. So what we try and do is we try and anticipate where we're going to position the vehicles, where we're going to position the teams before the actual task begins, so that if the situation does get out of hand, we can have a contingency plan where we can sort of get out of that situation.
Can you fire back?
Well, certainly if we've got access to any weapons, then if our lives are in danger or the people that we're advising are in danger, then certainly that might be our only option.
I would imagine the cost has become prohibitive enough for some organizations not to be able to stay in Iraq.
Yes, I believe that is the case. It is a problem with finance, and obviously I'd imagine some companies are taking the risk where insurance is involved and not getting their people fully insured, certainly for that type of hostile situation.
Thank you, Tom O'Neill in London.
Thanks very much, Susan.
When we come back, your thoughts on last week's show.
What's really important in building something better? For RBC, it's you, our client. Good things happen when our strength works for you. Remember the first time you experienced the freedom of accessing your money outside bank hours? Today, specialists in mortgages, investments, and insurance come to you. But it doesn't matter how often we're first, unless it puts you first. RBC Financial Group. First for you.
What you see before you is nothing less than the most refined, the most sophisticated, the most uncompromising gas grill we've ever created. A gas grill designed for extraordinary performance. Because to grill the perfect steak, you need the perfect grill. Royal King. Great barbecues every time.
Here's Gordon Pape on the Canadian Home Income Plan reverse mortgage.
It can make more sense to use a reverse mortgage to access money rather than selling another type of investment, such as bonds or stocks.
We can capitalize on the equity that we have in the house for a long time to come.
When you take money out of a RIF, it's taxable at your regular rate. But the payment you get from a reverse mortgage is tax-free.
Tailor-made for seniors, a Canadian Home Income Plan reverse mortgage helps you access $20,000 to $500,000 from your home's equity.
There are no repayments required as long as you or your spouse lives in the home.
To request your personal estimate and this free self-assessment guide, call 1-877-511-2447.
It's an excellent opportunity to put your home equity to work for your retirement today.
For me, it was a wise financial decision.
Call the Canadian Home Income Plan today. 1-877-511-2447.
Hand-picked oranges. 100% pure juice. Pour out our best. Old South frozen concentrated orange juice. A tradition you can trust.
Introducing the Litter Locker, a soiled litter disposal system. Truly odor-free. Scoop the soiled litter with the Litter Locker scoop. Drop the soiled litter into the Litter Locker. Turn the handle, and there you have it. It's quick, clean, easy, and odorless. The Litter Locker can store your cat's soiled litter for up to 2 weeks. Finally, a soiled litter disposal system which locks odors away thanks to its patented 7-layer barrier film. Odor-free, guaranteed. Available at large retail stores and specialty boutiques.
Last week we pulled the covers off a steamy debate south of the border. What counts as obscenity in the media, and when is nudity okay? When is profanity acceptable? Janet Jackson got the fire started when she revealed her breast at the Super Bowl. Last week we added some fuel of our own when Andrew Younghusband argued for a more liberal use of swearing in the news. And then we heard from you. Joanne Kaiser in Burlington wrote, "Increasingly it appears that there is a race to see who can reach the top of accepting anything just because we're progressive. A self-respecting individual doesn't need to swear or undress to shock people into thinking they are cool and progressive." But not all of you wanted the media to show more restraint. Ron Preston of Point Edward, Ontario says, "Any language that is acceptable in our society is certainly an expression of the real world we live in today. I say, let the media do what they feel is appropriate, and others stop meddling." Here at Inside Media, we always find your comments appropriate and welcome. There are 2 ways for you to get in touch with us. Our email is insidemedia@cbc.ca, or mail us a letter at P.O. Box 500, Station A, Toronto, M5W1E6. We look forward to hearing from you, and we'll see you next week with more CBC News Inside Media. Goodbye.